podcast, where three of the OKS youth ministers talk about youth ministry. I'm Michael Deese, and I am not joined by Jeremy Crow or Hunter Puckett because we have all been sick this week. I'm just now coming out of the fog, and we have not been able to record a new episode, and we're sorry for that. But what we have managed to do is Kirk Brothers, Dr. Kirk Brothers, the president of Heritage Christian, did an interview with Hunter Puckett on his podcast, Ministry Matters That Matter, and I highly recommend that podcast. You should definitely go listen to that. Kirk always does a great job with everything that he does. He was, like we said previously in one of the episodes, he was the director of the youth ministry track at Freed-Hardeman while we were there. And I loved Dr. Brothers, and he just does a really great job. So definitely check out his podcast. And this is an interview that he did with our very own Hunter Puckett. And I'm sorry that we weren't able to record this week, but next week we'll be finishing out, or we'll be doing our discipleship series. So we'll have a new installment of that. And we hope that you're enjoying the series. We're definitely enjoying it. But without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and start that interview up. And we really hope that your ministry is blessed, and hope that you really enjoy this interview.
I have the privilege of having here with me today Hunter Puckett. Hunter and I studied together at Freed-Hardeman, and of course run into each other at a lot of events, especially youth-related events. So I appreciate him taking some time. In fact, he's got jobs and responsibilities here at EYC as well. So I appreciate you taking some time to come and hang out with us here on Ministry Matters. So first of all, kind of just tell the gang a little about yourself. And let me just mention, he and I are going to Panama together in March. Heritage has a study abroad program with the Bible School of the Americas where we mix. There'll be about 30 students from across Latin America, as well as some of our Heritage students. And Hunter is also a graduate student at Heritage, and he will be co-teaching the class with me.
We're very excited about that, too.
So tell us about your work you're doing. Just tell about your experiences in ministry, help them to get to know them.
Yeah, I'm the youth minister at the Flint Church of Christ in Decatur, Alabama. I've been there 7 years full-time. I also had the opportunity to intern there all 3 summers while I was at Freed-Hardeman as well. Undergraduate from Freed-Hardeman, I enjoyed the classes with President Brothers so much that when I was looking for a graduate program, I knew that I wanted to go to Heritage, follow you, continue with that. This semester, we have adolescent spiritual development together. So we're very excited about that. I'm just busy with youth ministry. I'm working on my MDiv. I'm looking to go to Fuller Theological Seminary for a doctorate of ministry. But everything's just busy. Going great, though. Excited to be here at Exposure. We're excited for, so far, everything's gone smooth. And that's what we like.
Yeah, you're part of the team here at Exposure, aren't you?
I work with Paul. I kind of say I'm Paul's right-hand man. Whatever he needs, I just make sure it gets done on time.
Well, we're doing an interview with Paul Sperlin. I don't know if it'll air before or after this one, but we are going to sit down and talk to him.
The board here, they're fantastic, and they love it. They love the kids, and they do a great job.
But we love being here. There's at least 10 of us most time from Heritage every year, so we love it. It's in our backyard, and the folks who come here are family to us.
I've enjoyed getting to just hang out at the booth and talk to kids about Heritage. I love it. It's, like I said, Freed-Hardeman undergraduate. I'm at Heritage now, and being around everybody at Heritage, I see the uniqueness that comes with Heritage. I got to speak at chapel this semester, and the fact that you get to sit down as a student and sit and eat lunch with all the professors is the coolest thing to me.
Yes.
And they get to sit there and just talk. And it's amazing.
Well, one of the things I have really enjoyed, one of the many things that I've enjoyed is that every day after chapel, we serve lunch Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, but we all go in there and eat together. And that's pretty cool. That's cool. It really creates a family atmosphere. There's something about meal fellowship, the communal aspect of that. So, all right, let's talk about, you work in the youth world. What are some things you are seeing in today's youth culture that, there are folks who are part of this podcast who work with young people. There are some who are preachers in all avenues of ministry. But whatever avenue of ministry they're involved in, they're going to interact probably over the course of the time, many times with families and with young people. So help them understand what are some of the trends you are seeing face-to-face, boots on the ground in youth culture.
Yeah, there's been a lot of change. All 7 years have looked very different. And one of those big changes, obviously, is COVID. And we don't like talking about COVID,
Mm-hmm.
but COVID was a big change when it comes to youth ministry. Pre-COVID, our youth calendars were super busy, and that's all they want to do is just be together and be there. And now what we're seeing is this shift to families are wanting to spend more time together.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people are looking at that as a negative, but that's a big positive.
Mm-hmm.
Families are wanting to be together. They're wanting to spend more time together. And that's what we want. The kids still want to be together, but now the schedule is not looking as packed.
Mm-hmm.
But those events that we are planning are just as meaningful as a week full of events each day.
Yeah, I think you've hit on something that's really critical. It's not the number of activities.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the quality and intentionality of the activities you have.
Yes.
And so we kind of just filled the calendar with things. And some did that so they had choices, because not all young people come to all gatherings, but they had multiple options, and they may have 10 options this month. They may go to 5 of them, and another group of kids go to 5 different ones. And so I get all of that. But one of the challenges is sometimes we had kids so busy in youth activities, they never had any time to be a family.
Yes.
And so being intentional about not just doing something, why are we doing this and how does it help?
Well, and one of my goals, and we'll talk about this later too, is getting the Bible back into the family,
Mm-hmm.
having Bible studies with your family, having parents be able to sit down and all of a sudden, instead of the kid going to the youth minister for spiritual advice, they're able to go to their family.
Mm-hmm.
And that means a lot more for the parents and for them to be able to sit there and discuss these hard questions with them. And this is allowing them more time to be able to do that. So we're not trying to keep them busy as we used to. But like I said, the events that we do plan, it's with a lot of intentionality. We're making sure that event fits everybody.
That's good. All right. So you talked about getting Bible in the home. Let's talk about teaching the Bible in our Bible classes, because the responsibility of a lot of youth ministers is to oversee the education of at least the junior high and high school kids. A lot of times that includes elementary. Sometimes they'll give you K through 12. Sometimes you get 6, 7 through 12. So as you think about teaching young people, imparting the Bible to them, and in most congregations, the primary teacher of the Bible is going to be the youth minister to the young people. The preacher, they'll have some exposure to the preacher, but it's primarily going to be the youth minister. So what are some things you think about as far as curriculum planning and teaching?
Something that I feel like we don't do a great job at as youth ministers is when you get to a new congregation, you try to immediately change. You try and immediately make some curriculum your curriculum, and you start that. And what I tried to do at Flint was wait and see a full cycle of kids and see what they're getting, what they're not getting. And the kind of way that I approached it was I gave them a test, quote unquote. And there's no test in the youth group.
Yes.
But I gave them this test, and it had some basic questions, some basic Bible questions, and it had some more advanced Bible questions. And it gave me an idea of what they've really learned through 6th through 12th grade, and maybe some things that we didn't really hit too good on.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did was from that list, I made my own curriculum. And throughout that curriculum, it's 6th through 12th grade, and every single Sunday, it's going to be split middle school and high school. And then every Wednesday, they're going to be with me all together, and we're doing something different. And I've alternated from that to where one class is going to be topical, the next is going to be textual. So if it's a topical on Sunday morning, it's going to be textual on Wednesday. But even through that, if we're going to talk about baptism while you have a kid in 6th grade, that kid's going to hear about baptism then. Of course, they're going to hear it through most of the classes we teach, but they're going to hear it again before they graduate in 12th grade. So you're kind of getting a well-round on that side. And you're also seeing kind of what they know and what they've been taught, what they've learned from, taught the cradle roll all the way up.
Right.
And they're seeing what they've been hit hard on and they know. But now you're getting to see the things that they don't know and spend a little bit more time in that. Minor prophets is a big thing. A lot of people hate on Revelation. I love it. I also had Dr. Justin Rogers with Revelation, so I enjoy that.
Why you love it now?
It was awesome. And you see that, and you have some teachers that do it. And it's not that we were doing it wrong. It was just there was no, what we said earlier, there's no intentionality behind the classes that we were taking. You'd have our education deacon would come up and say, "Hey, you're teaching this class. What do you want to teach on?" And I look at my bookshelf, and it's, "Oh, well, let's do this or let's do that." And it's not that those books weren't beneficial, but there's just no rhyme or reason to it.
Yeah.
So I tried to make this rhyme or reason to, this is why we're teaching this, and it follows that. Something big I'm on is evangelism. So on Wednesday nights for the next 4 years, you're learning how to evangelize. You're learning there's going to be tough questions. How do you answer those tough questions? And now it's going to be, let's apply it now. So we're going to get into this idea of, and I stole it from Brandon Edwards, so we'll give him a shout out on that. But it's the 12 question series.
Yes.
And you ask your friends questions, what would you like answered? And that gives you an opportunity to invite them to church because you're answering that question that night. And that's what it's going to lead up to. So it just kind of covers, on Wednesday nights, it's covering a whole evangelism series, I guess you'd say.
That's great. I think about, as we think about our education, bro, first of all, what you talked about is the little test, as you would say. It's very common in the academic world to have an entrance and exit exams. That's a means of an assessment. So you're trying to figure out if what you're doing is working. And if they can't answer the questions any better at the end, then you're like, okay, you're not, a lot of times, I mean, the student has a responsibility, but typically when you do that, you're really assessing the program and the school more than you're assessing the individual.
Oh, yes.
And so when you do that with your young people, you're saying, what do they know? What do we need to help them to know? And are we doing it well? So that's great. I appreciate the emphasis on intentionality. I think about it. I read in grad school a book by Finley Edge, and he emphasized the need in our education programs within churches to know what we're doing, what we're trying to accomplish, why we're doing it, and how we're going to make it happen. And he made a comment to the effect, often our goal is nothing more than to keep them busy for 45 minutes on a Sunday morning. And so that's kind of what you mentioned with the education deacon who said, you're teaching, what do you want to talk about? That tells me that program has no intentionality. So just wrestling with, what does a young person need to look like at age 18 when they walk across the stage at their local high school? Then when I figure out what they're supposed to look like spiritually and act like spiritually, then I design a curriculum that creates that person. So great. All right, let's talk about some tips, just some general lessons learned or recommendations for ministry in general, but especially to teens and families.
Being involved in the kid's life is what I found to be the most beneficial. And what I mean by that is a lot of your kids are going to play games. They're going to play sports, baseball, basketball, softball, football. For me right now, half my youth group plays tennis. And our preacher at the church, he's the head tennis coach, which is very unique because I'm not having to compete against another coach in a sport. He knows my schedule, I know his, and we can schedule around each other. But going to games, being involved in their life, and for me, you want them to see that you're involved in their life, so they want to be involved in your life, be involved in your ministry, be involved in your youth group. When they see you take an interest, then you're going to reap from that benefit. And what's cool too is building that bridge. And we talked about that a lot at Freed Hardman, or just any preaching class is building this bridge, and you're connecting this bridge between you and that kid. You're finding things that you have in common. When I first got there, I had never heard of a band competition. I knew that there was band, and I knew that it was like, oh yeah, that's the thing that's at halftime at football games. But then you get into this band competition. I have no idea what that is. I don't know anything about tennis. I know you hit it back and forth until someone doesn't. But it's letting them know that even though I don't know that, even though I'm not super interested in that, I'm interested in you, and I want to learn more about you. And it's just building that bridge, building that connection with them, and it helps that. And also that, sit with the parents when you go to that, and you learn a lot about the parents, and you learn a lot about the kids, but more to show up to your events too.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because if you love into the teens' lives, you end up loving into the parents' lives. And there's been many a parent who've been won over, who became Christians because the youth minister loved their kids. So they look in the audience at that recital, and there's the youth minister, and they may never have been in the building in their lives. Or when someone in the family dies and you show up at the viewing, or you show up at the funeral, you're not only sending a message to that young person, but to the parents. And you hit on something I think about in my first youth group. They were soccer players, and they were in the band. And I have found that back in the day, band interfered with trying to plan activities more than any sport.
They take it serious.
Yeah, it's very serious. And so just learning to adjust to and adapt to the whole idea of, okay, what is it that my kids love? And I've got to learn to love that, even if I don't understand it. So I've got to learn it. I think about when I was in high school, the soccer team started. They had the first soccer team at Elizabethtown High School my junior year. All the guys on the team were all military guys. So they had learned soccer as their dads travel around the world, because I grew up near Fort Knox. And so those are the only guys who knew what soccer was back in the day. And so you just kind of have to learn it and lean into it. And I think there's another related thing there. Sometimes as youth ministers, we have certain passions. Maybe it's sports. And we can design everything to our passions and not to the passions of our youth group. And so knowing them, understanding them, and thinking beyond even these activities, I grew up loving sports, so God gave me $2 who didn't care.
Yeah.
Right. And, he gave me an artist and so forth. So think of what about the kids who love art, who love to act, who love plays, who love music, those kinds of things.
Well, making sure your youth events have a wide range. Don't show up at the church and play basketball every single Friday night, because you're only going to hit the people that do love sports.
Yes.
Find something that the other kids love to do too, or find something that's kind of in between.
Right.
Something I enjoy, and we do a great job of it. We go to Maywood Christian Camp or week 0. And something we try and do is not everything is sports oriented. We're going to have some sort of coloring involved. We're going to have something just to where it's just something that's out of the blue, something that's not normal.
Right.
And just get everybody involved into that. We've started doing a area wide youth retreat, and we've really enjoyed it. What we play is Battle of the Youth Groups. I don't know if people have played that before. It's actually a lot of fun. But it's each youth group is facing each other, and there will be one event that's going to say, we want your best athlete. So you'll send out your best athlete, and they will only get to compete in that one event. After that, you can't use them. Then the next one might be, we need your best musician. And that might be who the best one to sing a song. So they're out. But then the next one might be, we need someone who's just talented. You no longer get to use your best athlete. Now you kind of have to see who else is in your youth group. So it kind of gets everybody involved.
Yeah.
And you kind of get some hidden talents as well.
Yes.
So you're like, I didn't really know that. And I have a kid this year that's she's a color guard in the band. And I didn't really know a whole lot about that. Now for me, it's fun getting to figure out what the color guard is and what that entails and what that means for the band program itself. You're not carrying an instrument. You're out there twirling your baton or whatever it might be, but you get to show interest in things that you really don't know or have a background in.
A lot of young people don't get a chance to show what they're good at to their friends in the youth group, especially if you're in a city where you have multiple schools, multiple junior highs and high schools. And so giving them venues at retreats and camps to be able to do that can be an amazing thing. All right, talk about the podcast you guys have going, in case some of them want to dig deeper into.
We've loved it. It's called the OKS Youth Ministry Podcast. Myself and Michael Deese kind of had the idea. We've been talking a lot about that. There's so many things that we consume. So for myself, I've mentioned it. I'm a big Fuller Youth Institute fan. So Kara Powell, I've read a lot of her books and the youth stuff that she produces, but we don't produce a whole lot. So our idea behind it was we were going to start producing stuff for youth ministers. And we've done some curriculum, we've done some retreats and things like that. But also for the podcast, it's just us talking youth ministry and hoping that people that hear it learn something or maybe see how we do it and they can adjust to it. And we've enjoyed it. So it's myself, Michael Deese, who is at Hartselle, and then Jeremy Crow, that's at Coleman, Alabama, at Coleman Church of Christ. And all three of us have different gifts, talents when it comes to youth ministry. And then all of us have been in youth ministry a different period of time. Jeremy's been at the longest, Michael, and then myself. So I feel like we give us a good range of youth ministry and also different ideas where we get to sit there and we discuss things that work for our youth groups. We all have different size youth groups. We all have different demographics of youth groups. So it's the audience is being able to hear what works for some of us, and then you can kind of tweak that. Something I think about is Philip Jenkins, the Lunch Ladies, and his leadership group.
Yes.
And that works great for his congregation. That might not work great for my congregation. How can I use this great idea that should be happening everywhere, but how do I make that fit my congregation? And that's our goal for that, bring awareness to that. But what we've also realized too is it's not just for youth ministers. What we found is a lot of the parents love it and a lot of the kids love it too, because they get to see this inside look on youth ministry, on why we choose to do certain events or why we choose to do Exposure Youth Camp over any other event. And we get to tell them of why we love it and the growth that we see from it. And then also the scary side is our elders also listen to it. So we have to be careful in some things we say and how we approach certain topics. But it's not just for youth ministers. It's for anybody that wants to learn about it. We market it for anyone, a parent that's wanting to get closer to their kid on a spiritual journey. Anyone that's teaching a Bible class, any youth deacon, youth elder. I mean, anyone can benefit from it.
So OKS Youth Ministry Podcast. OKEST.
Yep.
So I had the privilege of being on one of those episodes. And so hopefully that will be helpful to you. Hopefully some of the other things we've talked about in the last few moments will bless you. Thank you for what you're doing in ministry and teaching other people about Jesus Christ. Ministry matters because Jesus matters. We pray you have a blessed and wonderful day.
We hope this interview has been a really good interview for you. It has blessed your ministry. Make sure to check out our website at www.oksyouthministry.com. Check out some of the things that we offer on there. And also check out our social media pages. We've got some stuff posting up on those social media pages. And don't forget about the Ministry League. They do a great job with everything that they're doing, and we're grateful to be a part of their programs and stuff. And thank you so much for listening, and next week we will get back to our discipleship series. Thank you so much for listening. We hope that your ministry is blessed.
Thanks for joining us today in the important conversation of youth ministry. Go and follow us on Instagram and check out oksyouthministry.com for more information about our upcoming episodes. We'll be dropping a new episode every Wednesday morning, and we look forward to talking with you again next week. And hey, it's okay to be the OKS Youth Minister around, but let's all strive to be just a little bit better.